Yes, Vaiga, how are you? I guess I'm audible. Yes, Vaiga, can you listen to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll be back in 1 minute.
Okay, sir.
Yes, I'm back. Okay, so we were doing the revision of this chapter. Okay, so before we continue, you guys answer some questions to me. Ramesh, you tell me, what is the name of the hormones produced by the ovary?
Estrogen,
And,
progesterone,
okay, which one of them is responsible for secondary sexual characteristics?
estrogen,
And the one that is will be preparing the uterus in the case of pregnancy?
progesterone.
Good. Okay. Vaiga, you tell me, in the male reproductive organ, the secretion of which part forms 1/3 of the semen?
So can you repeat the question?
In the male reproductive organ, the secretion of which part of the organ forms 1/3 of the content of the semen? Yes. Ramesh?
Was it seminal fluid?
Seminal fluid, you're saying.
Wait.
Try to recall it. Okay. Meanwhile, you're recalling it. I'm going to put some more questions to you guys. Do tell me, which hormone in the males is responsible for bringing secondary sexual characteristics? Yes. Isn't easy? It's easy
What's the
now.
question?
Which hormone in the males is responsible for bringing secondary sexual characteristics?
Testosterone.
Testosterone. And it is produced by the? Yes.
Testis.
Testis. Okay. Okay. The answer to the previous question. What's the answer? We have the options. Is it the seminal vesicles or is it the prostate gland?
Prostate fluid.
Prostate gland secretes prostate fluid that
Yeah.
forms 1/3 of the content of the semen. Okay. Today we'll be continuing with this topic. You guys turn your cameras on in the class. So we're going to learn about the menstruation. Okay. So basically, menstruation, what happens if the ovum that is being secreted by the ovaries, if it is not fertilized? So it is going to die. The ovum will die basically, right? And so will the lining that is produced over here, as we know that the uterus becomes thicker, right? Why it becomes thicker? So that in case if pregnancy occurs, so it will be receiving the embryo and it will nourish the embryo. But in case when the fertilization has not occurred, so the ovum that is in the fallopian tube, it will basically die. And what's the use of the thickened layer of the uterus? The endometrium, that will also fall off now. the endometrium has rich blood vessels in it. Muscles have formed, rich blood vessels have formed in it. So along with the ovum, the lining of the uterus will fall off by the vagina in the form of the blood. So that is basically menstruation. And when it occurs when the ovum is not fertilized. Getting it? So that is the case here. Okay. So basically, it's a kind of a vaginal bleeding that is occurring when the body prepares for pregnancy, but which does not occurs. Getting it? No? Because the sperm has not reached the fallopian tube, the ovum is not fertilized, so hence pregnancy does not occurs. So it's part of a monthly cycle that is controlled by various hormones in the female body. So if pregnancy does not occur, or simply the fertilization of the ovum does not occur, so thereby what will happen, the amount of estrogen and progesterone produced in the body, its level drops suddenly, because of which the uterus lining will break down and the menstrual bleeding occurs. Okay. And the average cycle will be for about 28 days, but it can vary from person to person depending upon the lifestyle. Getting it? So teenagers, particularly, like when the people would be in their 20s or 30s, so the menstrual cycle would be starting. Getting it now? Particularly, it starts early as well. Okay. So thereby, because of this, some of the symptoms will be observed, like they could be muscular cramps, okay, mood swings, okay, headache can be observed. Getting it? They can be lower backache, back pain could be common, and there could be cramping in the lower abdomen. Muscular cramps can be observed. Getting it? So that is the thing associated with menstruation. Hope you guys are getting it. And when the menstruation starts for the first time, so that is called as menarche. Okay, so it can start as early as by the age of 11 to 12 years, and in some people it can be delayed as well. Okay, and when the females would be reaching the age of 45 to 50, so at that time this menstruation stops, the menstrual cycle will be stopping, and that is termed as menopause. Tell me if that much is clear to everyone so far.
Yes, sir.
Clear.
Okay. Just 1 minute. So definition will be asked in the exam now. It is important. So all of you try to define this. Try to give a concise definition to this. No matter how simple it is, but try to define it. Yes. Remiz, you start.
Definition.
Yes. Definition of menstruation.
Okay. Um, when the ovum is not fertilized, the thick walls of
Hmm.
um
Uterus.
the thick wall of the uterus
Hmm.
uh, uh like what
It falls off.
yeah, it falls off in the form of blood and
Okay.
comes out in it comes out of the vagina.
Okay. In the form of bleeding. Okay.
Yeah.
Next, like some improvisation, some improvement is required in the definition, by the way.
Okay.
Hmm. By the way, many of you are not uploading the assignments. Neither Vaika you have uploaded any assignments recently. Harim you also haven't, and neither Aisha has uploaded any assignments. Why is it so? And many of you are being irregular also in the class. Yes, you guys have like any other assignment work from the school currently? Like busy in some other assignment work, or are there any upcoming exams right after the holiday? Is the vacation over, or like is it still going on, by the way, the winter vacation?
Actually, my school have started, and there is a lot of work piled up as our exams are nearing. So
Mhm.
it's a lot of work from every single subject.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay. What? Okay, you guys. Okay, Ramesh is regular, by the way. Okay, so yes, Vaika, you also go on to define this.
Okay, sir. So the discharge of the released egg along with the blood is known as menstruation.
And see, this is a monthly process. Basically, it's part of the monthly process, right? So it's the monthly process in the female body in which the line of the uterus sheds away, okay, along with the falling of the dead ovum. This basically happens if the egg released during menstrual cycle is not fertilized by the sperm. So the shedding of the uterine lining along with the blood and other fluid exits through the vagina, and it begins in the woman or the girls when they reach the age of puberty. Until menopause, it will continue. Until when they will be reaching the age of 45 to 50, this continues. Getting it? And it's a natural part of the woman's reproductive system. And it's basically the sign that the woman body is capable of reproduction. And how long this cycle lasts? It lasts for 28 days, but it can vary from person to person also. Getting it now? So let me just provide a definition for this. By the way, you guys have been preparing the notes or not? Do you guys have notes of every subject? Like particularly the every chapters from this class? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. By the way, I have shared the drive link to you, Iger.
Yes, I sir.
Good. So menstruation is the monthly shedding of the lining of the uterus along with dead ovum. Why the ovum is dead? Simply because
it hasn't been fertilized.
exactly. So it's the shedding of the uterus line of the lining of the uterus along with dead ovum, blood, and other fluids. Other fluids, right? And it will be exiting via the vagina. So exiting via the vagina as vaginal bleeding. So hope that much should have been clear to everyone. Further talking about the menstrual cycle. So what do you understand by this term? Huh? What is menstrual cycle? It is basically the period of time from the first day of the menstruation to the next. Getting it? So from the first menstruation to the second menstruation, there's a period of about 28 days. Getting it, guys? So that is basically menstrual cycle. So it is the period from first menstruation to the next, further last for 28 days, but can vary from person to person. Vary from person to person. Getting it? And as a result of this menstruation, several complications can be observed in the body. Like, for example, there can be lower back pain, lower back ache, we can say. There can be headache, okay, headaches. And in the lower abdomen, there can be pain, lower abdomen. Why there is pain in the lower abdomen? Particularly, the reason for this is that the muscles of the uterus would be squeezing. Because of that, it will be aching a lot. That is one thing. Okay, lower abdomen pain. Also, mood swings is also observed. So that's about also about this thing. Menarche is the period when the first menstruation occurs. So starting of the menstruation and the ending of the menstruation, that is called as menopause. Okay. You guys answer these questions quickly. Everyone would be answering the questions in the chat box. The subjective questions will be answering here, but the objective ones will be answering. Everyone knows where you have to answer, no? On the side here. Yes, Ramesh, that is correct. Vaiga, for the sixth one, the answer is not correct. No. As per the definition of menopause, what we have learned, it's the end of the menstruation, no? By the
Yes,
age of.
sir.
Mhm. Okay. So both of them are true as you guys have answered. By the way, there was one more thing I forgot just to tell you about, like how long the menstrual cycle will be lasting. Did I told or not? I think I told you guys about
28,
this.
right?
Yeah, I did told you guys, right? So it will be lasting for 28 days, right? Okay. But although it can vary from person to person, getting it? Okay. But the bleeding phase, particularly if you have to talk about the bleeding phase, so that can last from between 2 to 7 days. Getting what I'm trying to say? Like the bleeding, this bleeding phase, they could be bleeding for a period of about 2 to 7 days. So that is another thing. But the menstrual cycle, that will be for 28 days. That is the period between first menstruation to the next. So the appropriate answer for this one would be the 28 days. Getting it, everyone?
Yeah.
No, for the last one, that is not correct, Aisha. It is saying that the shedding of the uterine lining during menstruation occurs through which part? Yeah, Harim, that is correct. No, Ramesh, that is not correct. See what will happen. The dead ovum, this, yeah, that is correct, Vaika. So all of that would be coming out via the vagina. So the shedding basically means falling off of something, that is shedding. Okay. So that's all about this. Further, we had learned about the fertilization and all that. We did learn about development of embryo in the previous classes. We were learning about the difference between the zygote and embryo, which we had also discussed, in which we learned that zygote is formed as a result of fertilization. It consists of a single cell. It is a unicellular structure. Keep this in mind. While embryo, it's a multicellular structure. Getting it, everyone? So that is unicellular in structure, and embryo is multicellular in structure. Then it does not have any well-defined organs or tissues. In the case of embryo, it has body parts and tissues which are well-defined, although not very much well identifiable, but it is there in the embryo. Okay, answer the following questions quickly. What is the first step in the formation of a baby after fertilization? What happens?
Zygote formation.
That is zygote formation. By the way, you guys answer it in the chat box for the second and the third one, okay? For the second question, don't get confused between the given options. Okay. Like the B or the T might sound confusing, but it is saying connecting the developing baby to the mother. Okay. So it has to be some tube-like structure. Yes, Vaika, that is correct. I say for the second one, no, it is not correct actually. See, that is kind of an organ. It's a temporary organ which develops. Okay. The connection is because of this structure, which most of you have answered correctly. Yeah, Harim, your answers are correct. Good. Yes, Aisha, for the third one, it is correct. See, for the second one, you guys take a look at this structure once again. So in this, you will observe that this umbilical cord, which is still connected to the baby even after the birth, and it has to be cut. So that's this umbilical cord which is connecting the baby to the mother. Well, placenta is a temporary organ which develops here. So the appropriate answer for this is the umbilical cord. And for this, of course, it is uterus. Which of the following is the site where fertilization usually occurs in the female reproductive system? That is, yes, Aisha, that is correct. Yeah, that is also correct, Ramesh. Very good. Yes, Harim. Yeah. What is what is another name for fallopian tube? Yes, Aisha, good. Another name for fallopian tube? We call this also as oviduct. Okay, now ovi here is being used for ovum. Okay. And duct basically means a tube-like structure. So ovum is traveling in this tube-like structure. So that is oviduct. So this fallopian tube and that one is obviously false. No, Aisha, you were saying no, that is false, no? So the ovary releases multiple eggs during ovulation every month. So every month, either of the ovary will be releasing only one egg. Getting it? And that's a very rare occurrence that multiple ovulations can occur. Okay, got it? Then we also had learned about this embryo and fetus. So they were different from one another. Try to recall how the embryo and the fetus are different from one another. Yes. How are they different from one another? Anyone?
Can you repeat the question?
How the embryo and the fetus are different from one another. One of you please define embryo. What do you understand by embryo?
Embryo is like basically an unborn baby at an early stage that
An
develops.
earliest. So that is an unborn baby at the early stage of development, right? In which the parts of the body are not clearly identifiable. Okay. Although the tissues and the organs have started to form, but still they are not clearly identifiable. Good. So talking about the fetus, what do we know? It basically is that period of the growth of the embryo in which the organs, the bones, the muscles, the limbs, all of that have started to develop properly. Getting it? And it is identifiable also, right? So as you can see in the fetus and the embryo, take a look at the given diagram here, right? So there's a huge difference between the two. So embryonic stage basically starts from the time of fertilization and lasts till the eighth week of the pregnancy. Getting it? So during this time, basically the major structures of the body would be forming, but we see that it will not be clearly identifiable, not have fully developed. It is still in the developing stage. But the fetus is the later stage of the development of the child in which the facial features of the body have developed, limbs, bones, muscles, different organs, bones have um, developed completely. Getting it? That is one thing. Also, we see that miscarriage rates drops at this time, and most of the defects in the child occurs when the child is still in the embryonic stage of the development. Anyways, those are some other different things. So we can sum up the differences between the two as follows. So in this we see that it's the early stage of development of the unborn child, further we learn that in this age, this stage will be continuing till the eighth week of pregnancy, right? Now, so we can say that from fertilization till eighth week, this stage lasts. That is one thing. Second, we see that in this, the organs and the different structures are forming, but it is still not clearly identifiable, not fully developed. Okay. So organs are in developing stage, or we can say not fully developed. Further, in the case of the fetus, we see that it begins at the 9th week of pregnancy, basically. So begins by the 9th week, or so we see that this is the later stage of development. Next, we get to see that it begins by the 9th week of pregnancy, and we see that different parts of the body would have developed in this stage. Like, for example, limbs, different organs, muscles. You can count the facial features, etc. have developed. So that's the difference between the two. Hope you guys are getting it so far, right?
Yeah.
Now we see that in
Yes.
certain women, what
Yes.
can happen? Good. So what can happen? The oviduct or the fallopian tube can be blocked by birth. Okay, no? By birth it can be blocked, right? Or either due to some accident also it can be blocked. So because of which, will the sperm be able to reach towards the ovum even if the ovum were to be released?
No.
Getting it now? So see that this is the fallopian tube over here, and that's the ovary, suppose. So even if the ovum is released, right, ovum is being released, let's say that from here it is blocked. There is some blockage. So if the sperm were to come to the fallopian tube, the fertilization will not occur because the oviduct is blocked. So in this case, the woman will not be able to bear the baby, right? But due to the with the help of the in vitro fertilization or the IVF method, the freshly released eggs of the female are taken, and the male sperms would be taken, and both of them will be fertilized in an external protected medium. And then, as a result of that, the zygote that will be formed will be put back into the womb of the mother by the help of this cannula. So it is basically involving fertilization outside the body. So can we call this as an external fertilization, right? Isn't it? Although fertilization in the case of most of the mammals occurs inside the body, no, but this is basically involving fertilization of the egg outside the body. So that's the in vitro fertilization. It's kind of a fertility treatment method that is involving the fertilization of the egg outside the body. So first, what is happening? Some of the medicines would be given to the female to stimulate the ovaries to produce eggs. What will happen first? First, medicines would be given or injection would be given to the females to stimulate the ovaries to produce more egg. Then eggs would be removed from the ovaries, and there will be a minor surgical process with the help of which the eggs would be removed. All of you are getting it. All of you are so silent in the class. Tell me if it is you guys are finding it difficult or boring. Hmm? First of all, I want everyone to turn their cameras on in the class. Yes, Aisha, Harim, and Vaiga.
Yes, sir, we're getting it.
Turn your cameras on in the class, everyone. Good. So in this process, what we see that, first of all, it's not like automatically the ovum would be released. So thereby some medicines have to be given to stimulate the release of the ovum. Getting it, guys? Then by the help of a minor surgery will be done to get the eggs, to pick up the eggs that is released. So further, the sperm that has been taken from the male parent both of them will be brought to the laboratory. Then we will see that in the laboratory, in an external medium, the fertilization will occur. The egg is being fertilized here. All right. Now, in this, now, medical assistance can also be required for proper fertilization. It is not as simple as it looks, like the sperm will automatically fertilize it. Some medical assistance will be given in this. Okay, like take some help of some medicines could be taken over here. Anyways, so basically fertilization has happened. Now the zygote will be formed as a result of fertilization. The zygote will further grow on to develop a embryo. Getting it now? Further, this embryo will be put back into the uterus via the help of this cannula. And the embryo will be implanted, will be embedded into the wall of the uterus, just like how it occurs naturally. So that's the whole procedure of in vitro fertilization, in short called as IVF. Tell me if there's any question from this. Yes. So the first step was,
Sir, can you
Mhm.
explain it again?
Yeah, sure. The first step was, what was the first step? Egg has to be taken right now, but before that, medicines are given. So basically, stimulating medicines are given to stimulate the release of egg. Next is the collection of that egg. So that egg will be collected as we can see here. How it will be collected? Via minor surgery will be performed basically. Okay. So via a minor surgery, egg is collected. Then third, what is going to happen? Basically, the fertilization is going to occur in a well protected medium. Okay, now in the laboratory under careful observation, the fertilization will be occurring. Okay, so in laboratory fertilization is done under the care of professionals. Particularly, they are the doctors who would be doing this. Okay. Further, what will happen? This zygote, the zygote that will be formed out of the result of fertilization, will be provided with some nourishment, right? Will it grow on its own or will it require some nourishment? Getting it? No? So, a nutrient, it will be kept in a nutrient-rich medium. Getting it, Aisha and everyone? Right? So, it will be kept in a nutrient-rich medium so that it can grow further. Right after the fertilization, we can't collect the zygote and put it into the embryo. Getting what I'm trying to say? Because at that time, the chances are high that the zygote can die. Okay. So it is allowed to grow for a week or so, like for 2 to 3 days, right? And after that, only it will be inserted back. Okay. So fourth is the embryo transfer. Embryo transfer to the uterus. So once the embryo will be put into the uterus, so then what will happen? The growing embryo will embed itself into the wall of the uterus. Embryo embeds in the uterine wall, and from here on it will grow just like naturally it occurs. So hope that much should have been clear, right? So that is the case of this test tube baby. That is the case here. Now the question is like, uh, why we are calling this as test tube baby? Now, why is it that the child born via the IVF method is being called as a test tube baby? Ever thought about this? Because yeah, any idea? Because earlier the fertilization used to occur inside a tube like inside a test tube like a structure. Getting it? So that the name came to be test tube babies. The child that was born out of this was called as test tube baby. Okay. So the babies that are born via this process are called as test tube baby. I have a general knowledge question from this. You guys tell me who was the first child to have been born via the test tube method or the IVF method, basically. Have you ever heard of this? Like, I have told this while we were doing this chapter earlier in the regular class. Any idea? Okay, I will give some simpler options. Okay, you guys tell me, was it Lewis Hamilton? Was it Carl Lenin, or let's say, was it Louis Brown?
It was Louis Brown.
It was Louis Brown. Very good. So Louis Brown was the first person to have been born by this method in the year 1978. Getting it? No? So Louis Brown was the first test tube baby. First. Answer these questions quickly. By the way, one more thing. See, this structure that you see over here, no, it kind of looks like this. If I have to draw kind of a 3D image of this, okay, and that is called as a dish, or more specifically called as a laboratory dish. Okay, now called as a laboratory dish. Continue. Ramesh, for the first one, it is not correct. Yeah, Viger, that is correct for the first one. Okay, I forgot to put the numbers here. So see, this is the no, this is the second one, and that's the third one. Okay, that's the numbering of the questions. So answer accordingly. You have taken this one as the second question, Ramesh. While answering, you have taken this one as second, no?
No, I have taken that one as third.
That one is third. Okay, so then I will check it accordingly. Yeah, for the second one, then your answer is correct, and for the third one, it is correct. Very good. Now your answer for the first one is correct, Ramesh. Harim, your answer for first one, that is correct. Very good. For second one, yeah, for second one also correct, and for the third one also correct. Very good. Aisha, what you have answer for the first one? Aisha, did you answer for? Oh, yeah. Oh, no. You have an answer for the first one, Aisha. For the second one, you have answered as. That is correct. Very good. Vaiga's second answer is not correct. If the fertilization were to occur, like never ever the fertilization occurs in the uterus. Okay. No, Aisha. See, let me explain this. For the first one, what does the term test tube baby refer to? A baby born without fertilization? Huh? Is it possible like a child would be born without the fertilization? That is not. So option A, cancelled. A baby conceived entirely in a laboratory. A baby conceived entirely in a laboratory means that the complete development of the baby would be occurring in the laboratory. That is not correct. A baby conceived through external fertilization. Yes, external fertilization is occurring. And where is that occurring? In this China dish, in this laboratory dish, right? That is occurring in this laboratory dish. So yes, external fertilization is occurring. Next, the question, this option goes on to say, and then implanted into the mother's womb. Exactly. So this further, when it will be growing, it will be implanted into the mother's womb. So option C is correct. The D1 is saying a baby born with the help of advanced medical treatment. No, that is not correct. Where is the advanced medical treatment here being used? All we are doing basically minor surgery is being done, ovary is taken, and external fertilization is occurring here. Second one is saying, where does fertilization occur in the process? So it occurs in a laboratory dish. What is the primary reason for using the test tube baby? To prevent genetic disease? No, that is not the main reason. To help couples with infertility problem? Exactly. Okay. Particularly in this case, which part of the female reproductive organ is blocked? That's the fallopian tube. Okay. Further, we see that fallopian fertilization can be of two types. One that is external, one that is internal fertilization. Getting it? Now, in the case of external fertilization, we have examples of the frog, we have toads that will be laying off thousands of eggs in the streams, in the slow stream, or in a pond. Even the fishes would be participating in external fertilization, right? So what happens? The females would be laying hundreds or thousands of eggs all together in the water, and these eggs, are they covered with any shell? Are they covered with any solid structure? No,
Yeah.
they are not actually.
Oh.
Okay, no? So basically, they are not covered with any hard shell, but there is a jelly-like substance that would be guarding them, that would be putting them together and would be holding them together. So that with the flow of water, it does not breaks apart and does not flow somewhere else. So this jelly-like substance would be guarding them all and would be holding them together. So as the female frog would be laying their eggs, the male frog will come over there and will deposit the sperms over them. The male frog would be releasing the sperms over them, and this will result in external fertilization when the sperms would be coming in contact with the eggs in that water. Getting it, everyone?
Yeah.
Although in this image you can see like there are large number of eggs are there, right? But only few of them will manage to survive, right? So that is also one of the reason that since only few of them manages to survive, hundreds to thousands of eggs are released by the uh, females, so that maximum of the offsprings can be born. So that is how external fertilization will result in the development of the frog in this case, right? So hope that should have been clear. So also there we see that there are so many processes, so many factors that will be hindering this fertilization process. Like the very first thing is that it is exposed to the movement of the water. Water is not constant, it will keep on moving. Due to the rainfall also, this jelly-like structure can disintegrate, huh? Or some of the animals can eat this also. Getting it now? It will become food for so many animals. So that is the case with the external fertilization. Okay. So what we learned so far in this? Harim, you tell me why the fishes or the toads or the frogs would be laying, females, fishes, frogs or toads would be laying hundreds to thousands of eggs at one single time. Why is it so?
So can you ask the question again?
Question was that why the female frogs or fishes or toads release hundreds to thousands of eggs at one single time. First, Harim, you will be answering and then others will follow. Yes.
I don't know for exact, but is it cause the rate for them to survive is really less?
Exactly.
Laying
That
eggs, it makes it more possible for them to survive.
that is the primary reason. Okay. So what are the factors that can hinder the fertilization process? Ramesh, you can go on to answer this one. What are the factors?
Some eggs going down a stream and being lost, then animals eating them.
Exactly. Right. So female frogs are laying hundreds of eggs, right? Further, we're seeing that these eggs are surrounded by a jelly-like substance. What would be the function of this jelly-like substance, Vaika? To hold them together, to guard them together, right? So jelly-like substance holds them together. Getting it? Further, what happens basically, the male organism here, male parent, like in this case, male frog would be basically depositing the sperms. So it basically deposits the sperm over it, and hence that results in fertilization. Okay. And the frog will be growing via the metamorphosis right now. So by the process of metamorphosis, it will grow further. By the way, you guys tell me which hormone is required, like which mineral is required in the water for the proper growth of the frogs. Try to connect it with the chapter Age of Adolescence, which we have discussed, where we have learned about various hormones, like particularly thyroxine hormone is important, getting it, for the growth of the frogs. So for thyroxine hormone, which mineral is important? Yes, Aisha? Anyone?
Iodine.
Repeat again.
Iodine.
Iodine, exactly. Okay, no. So that's why it is recommended to consume iodized salt. Okay, because iodine is important for the proper functioning of the thyroid glands. What is the hormone released by the thyroid gland? Anyone? We just talked
Thyroxine.
about exactly thyroxine hormone. Okay. So challenging factors were there. So first thing is that water is not stationary, as it will be continuing moving. So water movement is one such problem. Wind can be a hindering factor. Then the animals can also consume this. So these are the problems. Then in the case of internal fertilization in context of humans, we have already learned. Here we'd be learning about it in the context of the animals. Okay, like the hens. Okay. By the way, you guys tell me what is common between the external and the internal fertilization. What are the common things?
Could you please repeat?
What is common between external and internal fertilization? That is this one thing that is common. You guys turn your cameras on. Aisha, Harim, and Ramesh. There is one thing. Both of them requires the gamete cells, right now?
Yeah.
That's one thing common, no? Good. Okay, let's talk about the internal fertilization. Harim, kindly read the given paragraph.
Internal fertilization in hens. In case of hens, soon after fertilization, the zygote divides repeatedly and travels down the oviduct. As it travels down, many protective layers are formed around it. The hard shell that you see in hen's egg is one such protective layer. After the hard shell is formed around the developing embryo, the hen finally lays the egg.
Good. So let's take a look at the reproductive organ of this hen here. This is the ovary, right? Ovary would be releasing the ovums into the oviduct, right? Further, when the ovum in this oviduct would be fertilized, so it will be traveling down the different layers of this oviduct. While it will be traveling down the different layers of the oviduct, so hard shells will be developing around it. Hard shells will be developing around it. Getting it now? So hence, sorry. So when the ovum would be fertilized, zygote will be formed, right? And we know the cells of the zygote will keep on dividing itself. So the upon the division of the cells of the zygote, it will travel through the different layers of the oviduct also. In the process of traveling through the different layers of the oviduct, so we see that different layers, it will basically develop a hard shell. Okay, no, it will be developing a hard shell around it. Okay, and this takes almost um, for the one more thing is that the development of the child from this egg takes almost a period of about 3 weeks. So that is around 21 to 22 days. Getting it, no? So that is the case. So hen would be basically sitting over the egg to provide it with the warmth. And what do we call this? What do we call this period? Basically, we see that the hen should be sitting over the egg. So what does this process called as? What do we call this? We call this as the process of incubation. Getting at the incubation, right? So they would be sitting on the egg to provide warmth, and hence that will facilitate the development of the chicks inside it, right? So that is the case. Furthermore, we see that there are different types of animals, like we have viviparous animals and you have oviparous animals. The egg-laying animals, they are basically called as oviparous, and the organism that will be giving birth to live offsprings, right? Why we're calling as life offsprings? Because the moment they are born, they show life, all the symptoms of life right now. But in the case of the hen, the moment the eggs would be laid, there is no visible signs of life on the very first day the eggs are laid, but there are visible symptoms of life. So these organisms would be giving birth to live offsprings. Getting it, Aisha? Getting it, everyone? So they give birth to live young ones. So they are called as viviparous animals. Aisha, read the given differences between the two. Okay, no issue. Ramesh, you read this.
Viviparous, these are the organisms that give birth to the young ones directly. For example, human beings, dogs, cattle, cats. Oviparous, these are the organisms that reproduce by laying eggs. For example, fishes, reptiles, and amphibians.
Good. Okay, by the way, the examples that we see here, human beings, dogs, cattle or cats, all of these are mammals, right? So can we say that all the mammals are viviparous in nature, or are there some exceptions? Yeah,
What is the question?
I'm saying that are there some exceptions to this? Can we say that all the mammals are viviparous, or are there some exceptions to this?
There are some exceptions.
There are some exceptions, exactly. So in your GK books, you might have learned of some of the mammals that lays eggs. Have you guys heard of this platypus animal? Duck-like bill,
Yeah.
duck-billed platypus? Huh? You might have heard of this, no? Have you guys seen the image of that organism? Has a long beak. Okay, it has a long flat beak. Okay, so we have some exceptions. So there is one mammal called as duck-billed duck-billed platypus, which is an exception to this. Okay, so they will not be laying the eggs, they will be giving birth to young organisms. Okay, hope that much should have been clear. Apart from that, we have some other organism also, but this one is sufficient. Okay, then talking about metamorphosis. So metamorphosis, it's the process in which young ones would be undergoing drastic physical changes as they will be developing into an adult, and their life will be categorized by different stages of development. Okay, at one such a stage of the development, they will be in this stage, like this is the tadpole which has got legs. Later on, it grows on to grow the legs also. Right now, this one has the tail, that is the tadpole with the leg and the tail, and this one grows a leg as well. And as it grows on to become an adult, the tail basically disappears, right? So at different stages, we are seeing that they are having different physical features. Right now, they are having different physical features, right? So when you compare this tadpole with the adult, they are completely different from one another in terms of their physical outlook. Getting it, guys? So the young stage of their development is completely different from their adult stage. Getting it, Hari, Maisha, and Ramesh?
Yeah.
So metamorphosis, we see that it's the process of development of the young organisms that undergoes drastic physical changes as they will be developing into an adult, hence that is metamorphosis. And it is not observed in the case of human beings, obviously, because in the case of the human beings, no matter whether the child is 1 month old, 10 months old, 10 years, or 80 years, the different parts of the body remains the same from the childhood to the adulthood. Same here, it does not, it means in this manner that the structure basically remains same. Getting it now? That is the case. Other than the frog, you have got the silkworms also, right now. Silkworms also will be going through the metamorphosis. So the first stage of the development of the silkworm is such that like the eggs should be laid. Okay, so they will be laying many tiny eggs here. Further, the eggs will grow into the larva. The larva will consume the leaves, right? Right now. From the larva, basically, what we see that the caterpillar will be coming out of via this. Okay, and they would be feeding all the mulberry leaves for about a period of 3 to 4 weeks, right? Later on, they will release a fibrous material and will spin that fibrous material around themselves, and they will become a cocoon. So the caterpillar basically changes into a pupa inside the cocoon. Inside the cocoon. Okay, and this cocoon, as you guys can see here, this is how it looks like, right? So inside this cocoon, there is actual live pupa. Okay, and in the rearing of silk, basically the silk rearers, what they would do, basically they will boil this, and in the process of doing so, the pupa is got killed. What is the rearing of silk called as? The silk farming, what do we call that? That is sericulture, no?
Yeah.
Right. So what do you guys think? Like sericulture, is it a good practice or should it be stopped because it includes the killing of the silkworm? What are your views on this? Like
I
ethically, it
mean,
is considered.
depends.
It depends. Okay. Like various arguments are there. What do you think, Aisha? Since it involves the killing of the silkworm, so should it be stopped? What do you think?
It is bad because like we're killing the animals, but then we are
But
also it's like also a daily use for some people.
yes, it is. It is. Right. What else you guys think? Harim, Aisha, what about you?
It is bad, but
Hmm.
if we are not doing it, then I think there will be many more insects like them, which
Hmm.
can be harmful to the environment.
Okay. Okay. See, basically, what we see that in the environment, like you all have learned about the food chain and the food web. Everyone knows that, right? Suppose if we were to eliminate one organism out of that food web, so it will disturb all the other organisms also, right now? Getting it? Although we see that this practice of raising the silkworm to produce silk is often considered ethically problematic because it basically involves killing the silkworm during the harvesting of the silk, right? So it has raised many concerns, many like about the animal welfare, and hence people argue that the practice should be stopped, or rather than stopping it, how about we come up with some innovative ideas and we modify it to harm the insects? How if we were to obtain this silk without killing the animal? But there is one another question, one another concern. Basically, the caterpillar is building this cocoon around it so that it can grow and later on come out as an adult moth, right? So if we were to come up with some innovative methods, right, with the help of that, we can continue this practice. Okay, although there are various alternatives of the cell. One of you would be having this chapter synthetic. Okay, Vaiga is not there. No? You guys don't have this chapter synthetic fibers and plastics now.
I have
Who has? Aisha.
me.
Okay, Harim, you have. Thanks for letting me know. By the way. By the way, Harim, I got your syllabus and you have the chapters like you have just 1 minute. Let me quickly check your syllabus as we have shared it with me today. So just 1 minute. So you have static electricity, hydrogen and water, then carbon, right?
Yeah,
So these are the chapter names or the topic names only, like
they're
hydrogen and
the
what?
chapter names.
Okay. Can you do just one thing? Can you just share the content of the chapter? Like what are the topics? So that when the extra class will be scheduled, we'll be able to cover all of that in one single class.
Like the lesson names?
Lesson names and what are the names of the topics included